Hello everybody, Professor Scaly here. I hope you're all having a wonderful day and welcome to the R5C3 level guide. Now normally at the beginning of these guides I like to do maybe a funny or a witty intro or just something to transition into the video itself. However, this time I have a short apology as well as a little bit of a warning, I guess you could say. For the apology, simply put, you may have noticed it already, this video is in 720 quality and not the usual 1080. Whenever I record a voiceover for any video, I will change the quality down to 720 just so it's a smaller file size on my computer, since I do hold on to these for a pretty long time even after I post the videos. And normally I'm pretty good about changing it back to 1080 when I record a proper video, but I forgot to do it for this one. But since it's just a guide video, and for the most part it's more so what I'm saying as strategies I say vocally, not so much what you see in the background footage, I figured it wouldn't be that big of a deal if this is the only video like it. And then when it comes to the warning, well, I don't want to say too much, but if you've been around my channel for a while, you know that sometimes the background footage is a bit ironic because it shows us playing either very, very poorly or I'm doing the exact opposite that I suggest you should do in your run when you're legitimately trying to complete a level. So for those of you who get a kick out of that whenever you see those moments, this video is filled with quite a few of those. So yeah, take my words to heart when it comes to the guide, not so much my actions in the video. That's all I've got to really say though to preface this video, so let's hop into the level guide and start talking about everything you need to know to beat R5C3. So, R5C3 Starvation. As the name implies, you're going to be starving for resources. Or at least, you're going to be starving for ammunition. A lot of the zones you go throughout this level don't have pretty much any ammo packs in them whatsoever, or the ammo packs that they do have are just two uses. It's not until the ending of the level where you'll finally get a decent amount of ammunition. So because of this, we need to find an alternative, that way we can actually survive during all the alarm doors we have to do and make it to that point. So you can either go one of two ways. You can either do the mines and seafoam strategy, where you just keep doors seafoamed until you finish all the scans and let the doors break down and have a few mines deal with pretty much all of the enemies. Or you can rely on sentries to either kill or at least greatly damage most of the enemies before they get to you. That way you don't have to use up nearly as much ammunition to finish them off. We've been doing mines and seafoam for quite a while, and while I do think it's effective on this level, I don't think it's nearly as effective as a sentry loadout. So we're going to change things up a little bit and go with some sentries. Now for this, there's a few different ways you could change this loadout. However, the core part of it would be to take an auto sentry, a burst sentry, and a sniper sentry. All of the alarm doors throughout this entire level, you can funnel every single enemy to two specific doors. Some of them, you can even funnel them to one specific door. And because of that, we can put up a nice little position where we have the auto and burst sentry working together. Auto to stagger enemies as they approach, burst to shoot them from behind to do more damage and kill them off a lot faster. And then we can have the sniper sentry all by itself down the longer corridor. That way it has more times to deal with the enemies and kill them from that direction. When it comes to your fourth tool, however, you can take pretty much whatever you feel like using. If you want to take a biotracker because you like using it and you want to have it on your team, that's a viable option. You know, knowing where enemies are and how many there are is always good information. And it can also help out during the extreme objective portion, because once you finish the extreme objective, all the lights throughout the entire level are going to go out, and then large groups of enemies are going to spawn in and chase you down as you're carrying a data sphere all the way back to extraction. So having a biotrack for that can definitely help out quite a bit. If you want to take a seafoam launcher or maybe mines instead, that is also a viable option. Most of the time you can leave the door with the sniper sentry open or closed. So if you like to leave it closed, you can use seafoam to make it so enemies can't get in as fast, that way the sniper sentry has more time to do its job. Maybe you could put mines on it instead, that way if a bunch of enemies do get to the door, you could just let it break open and let the mine deal with most of them. Or you could use it in case maybe you wake up a room with a lot of enemies, and you need to fall back, shut a door, place a mine, and that can handle that a bit better. Or if you really want to go all the way with the sentries, you could take a second sniper sentry. If waves of enemies keep spawning from the direction with the one sniper sentry, it is pretty hard for that sniper sentry to actually effectively deal with a lot of the enemies. And most of the time, a lot of them are going to get through, and then you're going to have to shoot or melee a lot, and then you're going to run low on resources you already don't have that much of. However, if you take a second sniper sentry, It has double the firepower, which means not nearly as many enemies will actually come through that direction, and you don't have to use up as much ammunition. So as a short, quick little recap, make sure you bring an auto sentry, a burst sentry, and a sniper sentry, and then your fourth tool can basically be whatever you feel like using, except for, I would say, another auto or another burst sentry, as having two of those really isn't that effective as having one of the other tools. That's everything when it comes to the loadout though, so let's drop into the level itself and start talking about everything zone by zone. Dropping down into the level, you'll see that your main objective is to create uplinks at two specific terminals that will always be located inside of zone 377. You start off inside of zone 371, and for the most part on the way there, there's not a whole lot I really need to talk about. Yeah, there are quite a few alarm doors I need to show map overlays for, but really when it comes to what to expect inside these zones, not much to discuss. There aren't going to be any power cells, key cards, fog turbines, any berthers, tanks, or rooms with 6 scouts in it or anything like that. Although there will definitely be quite a few regular strikers, shooters, giants, there'll be some chargers, a few scouts, I believe even a charger scout or two along the way. So be careful of all that, but I mean that's stuff you've already been facing for a while, so let's just zoom all the way to zone 377. So zone 371 itself, not really anything I need to talk about. The security door to zone 372 is just a full team scan, so you can enter on pretty easily. Inside of zone 372, you're going to find a security door that connects to zones 373 and a door that connects to zone 374. The security door to 374 is where you need to go to get to where your uplinks are, but the one to zone 373 is going to be a resource zone. Now this zone is not mandatory in order to beat the level, although it can help out quite a bit, especially if you don't have something like provisions on you, so I would recommend you do go in here on your average run. The security door to zone 373 is going to be a class 3 cluster alarm. And let's look at a map overlay. Now I'm going to spend a little bit extra time talking about this security door in particular due to the fact that I'm going to share the general strategy that you're going to be using for pretty much every single alarm for the rest of the level. So here you can see there are multiple entrances to your room, but these two entrances right here are really the only ones you actually need to worry about. Whenever you do sentry strategies and you don't have either the sentries on the outside of the door, you don't have mines or seafoam, you want to leave the doors open, that way enemies can trickle in through instead of coming in a very large group, because the sentries, while they will be able to deal with a fair amount of them, will not be able to kill everything. So for this door right here, this is where your auto and burst sentry combination is going to go. The idea with this is the auto sentry will shoot enemies from the front as they come into the room, while the burst sentry will shoot them from behind for bonus damage while they're getting staggered by the auto sentry. This will deal with a pretty large amount of enemies, and those that do make it by will either be pretty much on the verge of death or at least missing a fair amount of HP, making it much easier for you to kill them without having to spend too much ammunition. Then let's talk about the northern door. This is where your sniper sentry is going to go, and how you want to position your sniper sentry in these type of situations will differ depending on the loadout you took. If you have a seafoam launcher, you're going to want to place the sniper sentry away from the door, facing towards it. That way it could shoot enemies as they approach the door and while they're banging on it, because in this situation you're going to seafoam that door. And that'll give the sentry plenty of time to actually damage the enemies, and you can re-seafoam it here and there depending on how many more scans you have to do. However, if you take anything besides the seafoam launcher, you're going to have your sentry at the base of the door facing outwards towards the direction enemies will be coming from. But you'll be leaving the door open in every single situation unless if you have a mine deployer. If you do have a mine deployer, you are able to shut the door, since you can bunch up a bunch of enemies on it and let the mine deal with most of them. But if you don't have a mine deployer, you want to leave the door open. That way when enemies get there, they trickle in. Just like with the other sentry position, you want them to trickle in, not come in a large group to the point where you have like 10 enemies in front of you, but instead maybe 2 or 3 at a time, because it's a lot easier to manage. So from this point onward, for the rest of this level, if I tell you to place your auto burst somewhere, do the same thing. Burst from behind the enemies, auto it facing towards them to shoot them from the front. Sniper sentry towards the base of the door and facing where they'll come from, unless if you have seafoam, in which case you place it away from the door facing towards it. So remember that for the rest of the level. Once you finish all the alarm, or finish all the scans and all the enemies are dead, pick up your sentries and head into zone 373. Now inside of zone 373 there are going to be a fair amount of resources. I think there's always at least a 4-use ammo pack, maybe sometimes you could get a 3-use and a 2-use, I'm uncertain on that. You could get some med packs, you could get some tool refills, but you want to be careful about getting them. In this zone, there will be nothing but giant strikers, giant shooters, hybrids, and I believe there will always be 2 scouts. And if you wake up these rooms and trigger pretty much everything, including those 2 scouts, most of the time you're going to spend more resources killing all those enemies than the resources you're going to get back in return. So be careful going through here. Either make sure your stealth kills are clean and you're not waking stuff up, maybe just kill the scouts and nothing else, or just simply sneak by everything, get the resources, and get out. Just be very cautious to not trigger this entire zone. Once you have everything you need though, head back into 372, head north, and you can head towards the security door that leads you to zone 374. The security door to zone 374 is going to be a class 5 alarm door, and there's only one entrance to the room that enemies will take, or at least one if you leave the door that I've specified open. This is where you're going to be placing your auto and burst sentry on the inside of the door, that way it shoots enemies as they come through, and you don't need to place down your sniper sentry whatsoever. You also do not need to place down any mines or C-foam. However, if you do want to, you could place a little bit of C-foam beyond the turrets, that way if enemies, or when enemies do get beyond the turrets, or past them I should say, the C-foam can make them move a bit slower or just completely freeze them in place, and that way you don't have to worry about as many enemies rushing. This can be nice, seeing how enemies do actually spawn pretty close to you because of the room divider, so having a little bit of C-foam on the floor could definitely help out. Once this alarm door is finished, you can head into zone 374. Zone 374 itself doesn't really have anything I need to take note of, so we're going to jump all the way to the security door that leads you to zone 375, which is going to be another class 5 alarm door. For this one, there's a little bit more setup for it, but it's going to be pretty much the same premise as everything else. As you can see, I have a few doors labeled that you should leave open. This door right here, you can shut, but only if you have mines. If you don't, leave it open so enemies trickle through it instead of bunching up all together. This door right here, this is where you're going to want your auto burst sentry. You can have it facing so it's partially in the room where you are, as you'll probably see in the background footage in a moment here. Or you could place it a little bit out in the corridor, that way the sentries aren't going to potentially shoot you. As for your sniper sentry or sentries, you're going to want to place them near this door right here, and those are going to be facing all the way out across the hallway, that way enemies who come from the east will have to go through that long corridor and get picked off by that sniper sentry. And this will make it so that not too many enemies get through, and you can deal with the rest of them either by just simply meleeing them or shooting them while you focus on the scans. Once you finish this alarm door, you can head on into zone 375. Inside of zone 375, you will find multiple scouts, I believe, as well as not only your security door to 376, which leads to where you need to go to continue the main objective, but also a bulkhead door that leads you to your extreme objective. However, this bulkhead door is currently under lockdown, and you won't be able to lift that lockdown until you finish your main objective and do both of the uplink terminals. So if you plan on doing the extreme objective, you're going to have to wait a bit and you'll come back here later, so just keep this place in mind. At the northern end of the zone though, you'll find the security door to 376. This is going to be a class 6 sustain alarm. And with this one, as you can see according to the map overlay, there's only 2 entrances into your room. So the western side is where you're going to have your sniper sentry or sentries, and the eastern side in the little corridor area, that's where you're going to have your auto sentry and your burst sentry. Now, a little bit of a weird thing when it comes to this alarm door is that it seems like enemies are actually able to spawn 3 rooms away, which I don't know why that is completely. There are some theories, but nothing that's like, oh yeah, this is 100% the reason why. So I would sort of just suggest any of those doors are 3 rooms away, leave open, because again, you don't want a bunch of enemies to clump up on it. You want them to funnel in slowly, so leave pretty much all those outer doors open. That way you don't have to worry too much about this, but overall this doesn't really change how you prepare for this alarm door. Once you finish it, like all the rest, you can head into zone 376. Inside of zone 376, again, not much I really need to take note of, except for the terminal. There's only one terminal in this zone, and if you like to use the terminals to ping where all of your resources are instead of blindly looking for them, then you're going to notice that this terminal has a password. And you might be wondering, where the heck do you get this password, because it doesn't tell you a specific terminal to get it from like most do. The reason for it is because this is actually a lore terminal, and the audio log that told you the password was found back in R5C2. So for those of you who don't know, the password is resist, as you can see up on screen right now. So if you do want to get into this terminal, that way you could ping stuff or just check to make sure you got everything, you have the password to get into it. Other than that though, all that's left for you is the security door to the northern end that leads you into zone 377. This is going to be a class 7 mixed alarm. When it comes to this alarm door, the setup, as you can see, is pretty simple. There's 2 main entrances into the room. This door right here is where you're going to be putting your burst and auto sentry, so position them on the outside on the stairs. and then your sniper sentry is going to go over by this door here because it has a long line of sight down the corridor. It'll be able to shoot enemies as they come from that direction. Once this alarm door is finished though, you can head into Zone 377. Zone 377, this is where both of your uplink terminals are waiting for you in a really big open room with multiple floors, which in my opinion absolutely looks amazing. And in here there will never be any enemies and there will be a fair amount of resources, so ammo packs, med packs, tool refill, it's all in here. You might even find some deployable mines and some C-foam grenades which can help you out a bit later in the level, so grab those if you can. Inside of this room you'll notice that there are 4 terminals in total. And if you go to one of the terminals and try to type uplink connect and then you do the IP address, it'll tell you to go to a specific terminal to type in uplink confirm. The reason for that is because these are 2-person uplinks, something that we've never seen before until this point. And how these work is sort of similar to a basic uplink. Instead of you having to type in uplink verify and then on that monitor it'll tell you like X06 and then you get out of the terminal and you see a bunch of those on top of your screen, you have to pick the right one and get the word, it's going to go between 2 terminals. So the one where you do the uplink connect command in, that is going to tell you like Y07. Then on the other terminal where you do the uplink confirm, you'll have to open up the logs, you'll have to type in, I think it's like uplink code 01.log or something like that. And then it'll give you all 6 of them, your partner tells you which one it is, so Y07, you figure out what the word is, recite it back to them, they do uplink verify with that word, and you just proceed as normal. And these uplink terminals only have 3 codes to each of them, so they don't take that long to do. However, there's a little bit of an unfortunate mistake with this, or at least I like to think that this is just an oversight on the developer's point, which is one of these terminals does have a password that locks you out of it. However, this can either go well for you or poorly. If the terminal you have to do the uplink connect at is password locked, then it's not a big deal because you just simply do the other one first, and then you'll go get the password for the second one, because in order to get it, you have to open up the security door to the north of you, which is leading into Zone 378, which means there's a new spawn point for these enemies during the uplink. However, if the terminal that you have to do the uplink confirm command on is the locked one, you have to do a 50-50 guess, because you don't know which one you actually could do yet, and once you put uplink connect into one terminal, you're not allowed to do in the other one. So if you do it in one and it tells you to go to that locked terminal, you have to go to the north, get that code, and now you have to do both uplinks with enemies being able to spawn from the north and the south, instead of the first one where they can only come from the south, and then the second one is from the north and the south. So do pay attention to that. The other thing too is there is a unfortunate glitch with this as well. If you initiate the uplink terminals and you end up dying before you complete it, then what you'll have to do is load back into this level, then return to the lobby, and then load back in again. The reason for that is because you're not allowed to do multiple uplinks at the same time, and if you die during the uplink and load back into the level right away, it thinks you're still doing the uplink. So when you get to that point again, it won't allow you to initiate a new one, so you become soft locked and you can't do anything. Basic solution is to just drop into the level, then go back to the lobby, and then drop in again, and that should fix it. Or if you want to do it a different way, everybody could just simply restart their games, join back up together, and then play the level. So the easiest way to do this is, assuming you are able to do one terminal without opening up the northern zone, you do that. 2 people are going to defend, 2 people are going to be doing the uplink. The people who defend can take advantage of the southern room and the sentries. You could place down auto burst and the sniper sentry just like you did for the alarm door to get into this zone, and then you just defend like that, and overall it's not too hard. Most of the time enemies will just be regular strikers and shooters in the uplink, with a few occasional hybrids and giant strikers every once in a while. Then when you finish the first one, you could do the full team scan to 378, go in there, there'll be no enemies in there whatsoever, and I think maybe just a few resources. Find the terminal in there, get the password from it, go back into the main room, set up a little bit different because now you have to defend from the south and the north. An easy way to do this is have maybe auto burst to the south and then both snipers to the north, or maybe you can change it up a bit, just really 2 sentries to the north and the south, and then the defenders just have to rotate depending on where they hear the roar from and like what direction. If you take C-foam and mines, then you can obviously shut doors and C-foam them, or you could just shut them and mine them to buy yourself extra time. Anything you can to just make it so the uplink goes a little bit smoother. And then when you're ready, do the second uplink, and once you finish it, you've completed your main objective. Now, upon finishing your main objective, a few different things are going to happen. First of all, the extreme objective is now unlocked, and you could go to that bulkhead door and go into there, but also an extraction alarm is going to initiate. And this extraction alarm is going to be spawning in about 5 enemies roughly every 45 seconds. Most of the time these are regular strikers and shooters, but every once in a while the fifth one could be a hybrid. It is random chance from what I could tell, so you might get lucky and not get a hybrid for a while, or super unlucky and just get wave after wave after wave that has a hybrid in it. But overall, this isn't too difficult for you to just simply melee and then shoot that hybrid if need be, and then make your way back to the beginning. If you're just doing the main objective, you're done. You just have to get to the extraction scan and then hold out against these extraction alarm enemies while they're coming after you. And with sentries and maybe mines or seafoam, it's really not that bad. It's a bit of a longer scan, so you'll be there for a while, but it's, like I said, it's not that bad. However, if you're going for the extreme objective, you need to go do that first. Or, if you want, you could go back to extraction, preload your scan to about 95%, and then go to the extreme objective, because spoiler alert, once you finish the extreme objective, this extraction alarm gets upgraded and it's going to be a lot harder to defend against. So if you want to preload that scan a bit to help you out and give you a higher chance of survival, that might be a good idea. But once you're finished and you got everything good to go and you're ready, head to the extreme bulkhead door that leads to zone 415. It's just an open bulkhead door, so you open it up and you can walk on in and get started on the extreme objective. Upon walking into zone 415, you'll see that your extreme objective is to find a data sphere, insert it into an in-frame, and then bring it all the way back to extraction with you. And this data sphere will be located somewhere inside of zone 415 with you, as well as quite a few hybrids. I think it's usually around 5 or 6 hybrids typically spawn in throughout this entire zone, so do be cautious of them because they could all spawn in the same room, and there is a very big open room throughout this zone. But go through, collect some more resources, kill off the enemies, find that data sphere, and bring it all the way with you to the security door to zone 416, which is just a full team scan. Upon going into zone 416, you have more enemies to deal with. I believe there's also a scout in the zone, and then there will be 3 security doors connected: 417, 418, and 419. 419 is where you need to go to, or where your in-frame is located, so this is where you need to go. However, you need a key card to get into it, and this key card will either be in zone 417 or 418. So you can use the terminal either now or earlier in the level if you want to figure out which one of those 2 zones the key card is located in. Both zone 417 and 418 are just full team scan doors, no alarms tied to them, and even then both of them are also very small, so once you do the full team scan and head in, you might kill a few enemies, grab some more resources, get your key card, but overall it's not that difficult and it's not going to take you that much time. Heck, since they are full team scans, if you actually want to go into both of them to collect even more resources, then that is a viable option. Once you have your keycard though, you can head to the security door to zone 419, put the keycard in, do another full team scan, no alarm door, which is really nice, and then head into zone 419. In here, you'll find the in-frame located in the middle of the room, you'll find even more resources, and thankfully no enemies in here either. So at this point, I would highly recommend take your time. If you're good at dealing with small error alarm waves or extraction alarm waves and just melee killing them, this really isn't too big of a rush or anything too difficult for you. So just deal with them, heal people up, make sure people have good ammunition, make sure all of your tools are fully filled up, and then grab some extra resources that you can carry back with you. Also, make sure you understand the layout of the map and you have a general idea of what direction and route you need to take to get all the way back to extraction. Because once you put that in-frame in, or the data sphere into the in-frame, it's going to cause the lights throughout the entire level to go out, so it'll be pitch black darkness, and instead of that extraction alarm spawning in about 5 enemies roughly every 45 seconds, it's going to spawn in about 18 enemies, and these enemies don't seem to respawn at a set amount of time. It more so seems like they'll respawn once you kill off a fair amount of them. I don't know the exact numbers because I couldn't really get anything too precise when I was testing it, but it's just about 18 enemies will spawn in, potentially a hybrid could be in that mix as well, and then once you kill off maybe about half of them, it'll spawn in a new wave of approximately 18 enemies. The easiest way I find to deal with this is just wait for a basic wave before you put the data sphere in. When you hear it spawn in, put it in. That way, as it's finishing the animation, the wave will hit you, you kill them, one person picks it up, and then you start making your way all the way back towards the beginning. If you're lucky, the first wave will spawn behind you, and if so, you're practically home free for the rest of the level because there'll be a lot of doors behind you that you can shut, and you can just run through them, shut it, and if you do have seafoam, you can seafoam them. Do not place mines down though. Do not or try to kill these enemies that spawn behind you unless if you absolutely have to. Because if you kill a wave by mining a door, they could respawn in front of you and then you will have to attack them head on. So just keep on moving, seafoam doors behind you if you can, shut the door, one person take lead, open the map if you need to every once in a while to just make sure you're going the right way, and just make your way all the way back towards where you dropped into the level back at 371. When you do get there, if you have seafoam, you can seafoam that big door and then just keep that seafoam as long as you can. If you have sentries, position them that way, it'll shoot enemies as they come towards you, and if you have a mine, you can mine that door as well. But just get onto extraction, and either you have to hold out there for a little while if you did not preload the scan, but if you did preload the scan, then it'll go by very quickly once you put the data sphere into the scan, and you won't even have to worry too much about the rest of the enemies. But no matter what method you use, how you go about doing it, once you get that extraction scan all the way up to 100%, you're done and you have completed R5C3. And that's all there really is to it. A little bit of a nice change compared to R5C2, which was very long and complicated. This one was pretty short, sweet, and simple. It just really had to teach you the proper way to use the sentry combination, and then just sort of where to place them for each alarm door. And that was really all there was to it. But as always, if you have any tips or tricks for this level that you want to share, any questions for me, or you just have something in general that you want to say, leave it down in the comments. If you enjoyed the video and found it useful, then consider hitting that like button. It helps out the channel and it helps these videos get noticed by people who really need them. And while you're down there, you might as well hit that subscribe button and ring that bell to get notified whenever I post a new video. I know a lot of YouTubers say it, it's quite cheesy, but it really does make my day when I just see those comments, the likes, or just people interacting with the video in general. It's amazing to see people who enjoy the videos I put a lot of work into and, I put my heart and soul into. I know, it was cheesy. Speaking of cheesy stuff, I also have my own Discord server, so if you want to become part of the community I'm building, hop on in. The link is down in the description. Until next time, don't forget to not only look out for yourself, but also look around for those who are around you. See if there's something you could do to make someone's day truly special. And I'll see you all in the next video.